40% of under 25-year-olds think about themselves being self-employed or building own ventures, but I think 0.5% at the end does it and founds own companies.
What is YFN about? What value do you provide to people?
We want to empower the next generation of founders in between 16 and 25 years, and everything started with a friend group of 20 people in an old supermarket hall into a community of 1,100, which is now one of the German biggest student entrepreneurship initiatives.
What mindset do you think you had as a child that shaped you wanting to build instead of consume?
Yeah, I think it was just about...
Joël Heil Escobar is a founding member of YFN, Young Founders Network. Across every major city in Germany, you can find YFN chapters, self-organized local networks which give regular events, workshops, and a roadmap which helps any young founder take their idea to the next level.
I think the thing we did another way around was giving ownership to the community very early on. What kind of resources would have been useful for me at 16 when I was doing the e-commerce store, for example? And we thought, okay, maybe a roadmap. We did a video course, how to navigate through the German jungle of bureaucracy.
I still personally think that you have a clear picture of everything you want to do.
No, not at all. Maybe it looks like I have a plan. I don't have a plan at all.
So in that context, always finding like what the customers want. Yes, most startups fail because they don't find it out in the beginning. What do you think is the best way to find what to prioritize in the beginning?
Yeah, so
Hi Joe.
hi Sampa.
How are you doing?
Perfectly. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. It's funny how long we've been planning like this whole conversation and then we finally get the chance to record. I think your story is a very inspiring one because I wouldn't say you're a generalist, but like you have a lot of experience in different things, but also specifically YFN. I think it's a very interesting initiative and this will be a great conversation to like inspire other people out there. So yeah, let's get into it. So why did you decide to have this conversation with me? Because you could have easily said no.
Yeah, sure. So I find the project, the podcast, a great initiative. Thanks so much for doing it. And I think going to projects, talking to a lot of people is really one of the things that helped me most, especially the conversations with founders from the town where I'm from, so from the Kassel, northern Hessen area, in just the center of Germany. And I had an own podcast and know how valuable all the conversations are. And I listened to the first episodes and find them very inspiring and with a lot of insights. So thanks so much for inviting.
That's great. I mean, it's great that you like the podcast, number one, but it's also interesting that you mentioned you did podcasting. Maybe, I mean, we'll get deeper into your story and all, but at what point did you get into podcasting and what was the motivation for it?
Yeah, so the podcasting is one of the steps I did in all of my personal projects. Maybe it makes sense to just start with it because then the listeners get kind of a storyline out of it. I started into entrepreneurship not because I was interested in making a lot of money, but just because I wanted to try out new things. So at 6 or 7, I think,
6 years,
I got Minecraft and I bought it. And I think like most of my childhood friends, maybe you as well, started playing Minecraft on an early age. Growing up with all the YouTubers and the upcoming servers, Hypixel and everything. Mm-hmm. And I was just playing a lot with a lot of my friends. And at one point, my dad told me, you're consuming so many Minecraft channels. Why don't you start your own and show others how you can install mods, for example, or do some redstone kind of craft. And I think I started the channel at 9 or 10. And this was like the first step into doing projects on my own. So I had no idea on how to cut any kind of videos. I had no idea on what to do on storytelling, no idea of doing thumbnails. And the thumbnails, even 4 years after doing it, looked shitty, but it was just about, okay, how to start and what to do, and taking the first different steps on starting their own project, you know?
Yeah.
And going in, trying to do weekly videos, but not working at all, and just having a look, okay, what does work, kind of a view-wise way. So what kind of formats do work and what kind of content I enjoy doing. I went into tech, was doing like reviews, MKBHD for one of the people I really admire doing the tech videos. Also German channels like I Know Review and Felix Bach, for example.
Yeah.
and maybe some of the listeners know them, inspired me to do it. And in between all the video editing, I started doing own projects to earn a bit of money on the things I learned. For example, I did a blog for the Minecraft channel and for my YouTube channel, and so got into doing blogs and doing websites. And then I thought, okay, maybe there are small businesses in my area where I can sell it to them, where I can sell the blogs and do their personal websites for the small businesses in my area. This really did not take off at all, but I just went into designing everything, and especially COVID helped me a lot to use the time. Yeah, I did not use it perfectly all the time. I played a lot of video games with friends while doing homeschooling, but with all the free time, I also had more time to deepen my knowledge in kind of a video way, and also going more into tech and coding, and also doing first paid jobs for companies that needed that were like coaches, for example, and then needed to take their coachings, what they usually did on site, and then had to do remote. And I was helping them record video courses, for example, then could
help get like marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we've really gone in depth so much already, but maybe let's break the pieces like one by one. Like, I think Steve Jobs said in one of his speeches, like, if you connect the dots backward, basically, how would life be? So let's kind of look in retrospect, like Joel today and Joe, where he started from. So first, you mentioned like Minecraft as a child. Like, I'm sure every young person like our age probably heard of Minecraft.
Yeah.
But then you had a different mindset, probably because your dad like spoke to you, but you started thinking of how to add value instead of being a consumer. Then like from Minecraft, you went into this whole video editing and like the podcasting and all that. And then now we're as YFN. So let's start from Minecraft. What do you think the mindset was? Because I don't know if it's the same like where you're from in your hometown in Germany, but I think a lot of young people, if you ask them when they are kids, like what do they want to be when they grow up? Or maybe now things have changed because everybody wants to be a founder. But like back then, everyone wanted to work in corporates, I don't know, FANG or something like that. You get it? So what mindset do you think you had as a child that shaped you wanting to build instead of consume products?
Yeah, I think it was just about doing the things that I enjoyed. So I did not earn a cent with a YouTube channel, and I did it for 4 years, and I did not stop because I just enjoyed doing it. And I, for example, played video games together with some friends and did it like on a content format. So doing, I think, some kind of Bed Wars, for example. So playing video games in Minecraft. Another content format or content column I did was the whole tech thing. Another column was doing some kind of vlogs from trips I did. So I just did the things that I enjoyed, and then had a look, okay, if I get some kind of audience, can I SEO optimize it, for example? Because I think one of my most viewed videos was one of the early days where I just showed how to install the too much TNT mods,
Yeah.
So kind of a quite easy thing, which was then SEO optimized. This kind of mindset, I really did not think that much about founding on things. I just wanted to do own projects and learn while doing projects. I think this is one of the things that shaped my path the most, was just every time I wanted to learn some kind of new skill, I did not look too much into books. So I tried to start with, for example, a book or an online course on YouTube or something, but then really fast switched on to doing own projects. So I think that's the most important thing that I did then, and I still try to do now, more into coding, and then just shipping fast and showing the product to the community, to the customer very early on. But this can be on a very, very small scale. So if you start learning coding, just do coding challenges or do own projects, and while you do the projects, then go to bigger goals, and then you can progress on it.
Okay. So, fine. Right now, we've spoken about Minecraft. So I think it wasn't necessarily about a mindset, but it was just like curiosity. You were just like passionate about exploring different things. And I think, I don't know if you have the same view, but I think a lot of people have lost this whole curiosity, like mindset. Everyone is doing something, maybe because like everyone else is doing it. For example, if you take something like working as a developer, back like 2-4 years ago, so many people didn't want to become like software engineers, but I don't know if COVID was part and like all these day in my live videos. So like all of a sudden, everyone wants to study computer science. Everyone wants to become a developer. And even for founding, I think right now that's the big craze. Like everyone wants to build some form of AI agent startup. But what do you think should be the focus? Or maybe for someone who's watching this, who is thinking, who's not sure about like what to do, maybe they're in their 20s or like in their teens. What do you think, based on your experience, would be the approach for them to find out what they're actually passionate about?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the issues I tend to run into quite often is, what am I using my time on? So what are the tasks, the projects that really consume my time, and what are the projects that I want to do further? So for example, at one point I found myself doing a lot of video projects. So all day editing videos for courses and doing like SEO for the videos and animations and everything. And at one point I thought, okay, that's just not what I want to do. I want to go more into coding, more into the whole building on products, building interesting apps that others can use, and not doing all the video stuff. So the way was then to cut all the video things down and to just not get any more customers and finishing all the projects and focus more on the things that I really want to do further, because it will just not happen. So if you really don't switch your focus, the things that you want to achieve don't achieve themselves. And you need to steer in the direction. And another thing I think I learned quite early on is to set goals.
Yeah.
And to set them, I read an interesting quote a few days ago. If you don't set your goals high enough and that you're afraid of them, then they are just too low. So
exactly.
I think this really summarizes it very well.
Yeah, that's true. It's really true. But then I feel like two things, right? Mm-hmm. With goal setting, how does someone who doesn't even know where to start from, like, for example, right? Let me give you this example. I have this opinion that a lot of creatives, a lot of people who are into tech end up being creatives as well. Like me, for example, like I'm doing software engineering and product management, but I'm also passionate about like photography and video. Same with you, like you are also big into tech, you code, you build apps, you ship, but then you're also a founder and you also had some experience with videography. So let's take it like there's some 17-year-old kid somewhere and then he has this creative passion, but then he's in 2025. He has never written a single line of code, probably hasn't heard of Hello World before.
Yeah.
And then he goes online and all he sees is like AI agents, this MCP, this, and he has not even learned like any syntax or anything. What would your advice be? Like, should he focus on his creative side or he should start learning how to code? How relevant is programming in 2025?
So it depends on what you really want to do. If you haven't written a line of code and want to go further, I don't know if it's really what you want to do in your really inner kind of way, because if you are 17, you can start out, but if you're 25 and have not coded before, then maybe there was just no passion beforehand. If you then want to go further, then perfect. I would start with the basics there. I think on roadmap.sh it's called. Great resource where you have like different guidances on how to, what kind of fundamentals you should learn. And I think the whole creative side is very beneficial to start on things, or also to boost your career. So for example, I did a lot of coding, did videos and everything. And now I'm in the spot where I can do the marketing for my startup ideas myself, because I know how to edit videos, how to build storylines and everything. But there's also the other point where you just get overwhelmed because of the possibilities you have very, very fast. So I think you need to be true to yourself and really write down everything that you are currently doing, and then just cross out everything that takes your energy. Then try to minimize it the most you can.
Okay, so going back, it takes us back to goal setting basically, because I feel like the most important thing is having goals and working towards them. And like you said from the quote, if your goals don't challenge you, basically they are not goals. So how do you set your goals? Because you are someone who achieves a lot. So what do you take into consideration in eliminating things that are not necessary? And how do you come by setting actual goals and working towards them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I learned is having goals is good. I think it's very beneficial to have like a kind of North Star where you can move on, which should be kind of abstract and far to reach. But on the way, there will be tons of doors that open themselves and tons of other ways that you can go. And if another door opens, that probably makes more sense to go than to pursue this path and to have a look if it's going through the North Star that you're going or not. Having goals is kind of a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult for me to give like a broad overview. What I personally do is on every Christmas or New Year's Eve in between the time, I try to write my own goals for the next year, for the next 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Kind of personal stuff. So what I want to do personally on kind of hobbies, what hobbies I want to pursue, some kind of a project I want to go further into, what kind of skills I want to build, and also what kind of business-wise I want to achieve. So either starting a new project or enhancing the project I'm currently doing, or also kind of educational-wise. And doing the 1, 3, 5, and 10 years helped me, especially looking back on how my view on the last year's goals changed, and how the goals changed also my perspective, and that I often overestimated what can happen in 1 year, but incredibly underestimated what can happen in 5 years. That I was doing it now, or I'm doing it now for 5 years, so that's why I have the reference. Maybe in 10 years it will be different, but setting these goals I think is quite nice. What I would be very careful is doing like the Notions where you have a lot of goals and a lot of things.
Look at them.
Yeah, you just don't do it after 2 weeks. So all kind of habit tracking, all kind of pursue your own goals. I think having them written down a bit more structured and more clearly and a bit more minimized can be helpful to not have writing own goals as like the big blocker. This helped me.
Okay, great. That's a lot, but it's really useful. And what I like most was talking about like the 1 year plan and the 5 year plan. And I think it's important for you, like as someone who does a lot, because like right now you can look back and say, okay, here's how my life has been over the past few years. So let's go back a bit. So you started from like the whole creative and everything. How would you say your mindset now is different from your mindset then? And what did you do like from the whole Minecraft period all the way to COVID, right? What changed that made you this Joel that started YFN and everything? What was that thing that like?
I think many points on leadership changed a lot because I was doing most of my projects alone, and when starting YFN, I got into a community on builders. Maybe you can go a bit more into starting YFN in a few minutes, but I think what most changed, going from a kind of introvert to more on giving ownership to others. So more from having all the ownership myself and really keeping all the, not really power, but everything, all the information, all the knowledge, everything that I could do in the projects for myself, to also sharing a lot of knowledge with others, and also being transparent and giving ownership to others. I think that's the thing that changed the most, but I'm also learning a lot. So having mentors early on really helped, and also having different mentors for different stages on the journey. And the one thing that I really learned is that especially founders that have had own exits or are currently doing, I don't know, some kind of venture studios or are a bit further on the road, often take a few minutes, even an hour of their own time to help young people that are currently trying to do their best. If you have done your homework, if you just don't write them a message with, hey, do you want to help me? But you ask them, hey, I have problem X or problem Y. I'm currently stopped. There's currently a roadblock before me. Can you help me on the topic? And often after this kind of topic and the solution you get, the best case, and talk to them, mentor-mentee relations get out of it. And I think these were the most valuable, and that's where I learned the most from.
Okay. I still personally think that you have like a clear picture of everything you want to do, which is interesting.
But no, not at all.
Okay.
I have, maybe it looks like I have a plan. I don't have a plan at all. So
every day I just experimenting, like whatever happens.
Yeah, I have a daily routine which I try to do with like waking up at 7:30 and going to do some sports and sleeping at, I don't know, 10:30 or something. Yeah, it just doesn't work at all. Just too opportunistic, and like to take the opportunities that are there, and oftentimes you need to be aware when you should really focus and niche down and really lock into projects, and also have times where you are more open to opportunities, because they often present themselves if you have come already to some kind of space. So if you have been on a lot of events, for example, or very niche events from Tech Berlin or Tech Europe, for example, and then you get to know other interesting people, you get invited to other events, etc. So
that helps.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. The irony for me though was you said you were an introvert, and then you also talk about reaching out to people, like finding mentors and mentees. But then I think the interesting thing what you said, which is what most people miss, like founders or whoever, is everyone, like even right now on LinkedIn or Instagram, everyone does some form of carousel, which is like how you should do this, how you should do that. But then a lot of people miss the parts, which is like, you can't just reach out to people if you've not done anything. So I like the fact that you mentioned like doing your homework first and actually reaching out to people who are in the space and like have done stuff. Okay, so hey, like I'm working on this project and I don't know what to do. How did you move from introverts Joel to Joel that's reaching out to big founders and then now like mentoring young people to found companies? What changed?
Yeah, a lot of things changed and a lot of steps on my journey. So one thing that changed on the whole reaching out and getting to know people was some 1 year outer scholar learning program I did. It was called Junior Management School. I think now it's called Next Talents. And it's more or less like code. It's just for, I think, 16 and 17-year-olds that are in school, where you have a lot of different modules. So from marketing over entrepreneurship, team building, etc. Where I needed to build projects and do group work together with people that I didn't know at all. Yeah. And also got thrown into new groups every 2 weeks for all the kind of different modules. This had a lot on learning new people and being also more open-minded, and also having to be forced to work together with others and reaching out to others. If I was in a group and nobody was answering my messages, okay, then I needed to send them another message. The most or the biggest step, I think, was starting the podcast, because I wanted to I can go a step forward. One of the projects which I did while doing the video project was a blog, an affiliate blog, which I did for years. Yeah, for the bike for bike parts. So my dad bought a fat bike, you know, these bikes, these electric bikes with a fat
isn't there seats?
Tires.
Oh, yeah. Like mountain bikes.
Yeah, no, much fatter. So I think the tires are like this or something. Okay. And it was kind of an Kickstarter project, I think, or Indiegogo or something like this. And there was a website in the US that was just like a big list of accessories for the bike. Okay. With affiliate links. And I just took the website from the US, and most of the links weren't available in Germany. So I switched them to the German ones, and then also did SEO for the blog. And I took the post that the community did on Facebook, reached out to the people. Hey, I have a blog for Mate, and it was called Mate Bike. Can I post your thing on my blog? And this to this day, it works with SEO, and I think this was a great project because you don't need to reinvent the bike or reinvent the wheel in this case.
And just like everything is already existing, so you just create like a value for other people.
Yes, exactly. And this was one of the first projects where I really got money online and thought, okay, interesting. I don't need to go outside and I don't know, sell newspaper or anything.
Work somewhere.
Yeah, work somewhere, but I kind of work from home. And another project I then did afterwards in the COVID pandemic was having an own e-commerce store. I watched into a lot of different niches at the beginning and then narrowed it down to a store for personalized products for men and grandpas. Which was called His Moment, because I had the issue that I didn't know what to gift for my father on his birthday. So I thought, okay, maybe a personalized gift, maybe some kind of beer glass or anything could be a good idea. And then built an e-commerce store around it. Sadly, after a few months into it, I saw that my supplier was selling the products for 10 euros less, which was not a good thing. And I didn't losses. Yeah, no, I did not make any losses, but nobody was buying my product. That was the bigger issue. My marketing was bad. The competitor analysis was bad. But I did it at 16 and learned a lot of things, which I then used at my other ventures. So you don't have to know everything when starting your venture, but you will learn a lot, even if it doesn't work out the way that you think. And now I'm doing the switch to the podcast because I thought to myself, okay, why am I seeing all the YouTube gurus making millions with Shopify, and why I'm not making this kind of money or even 1,000 euros with a shop?
Yeah.
And I then talked to local entrepreneurs in my area in Kassel, and asked them, okay, what kind of failures did you have on your journey doing your companies? And then a friend of mine said, okay, you're talking to all these entrepreneurs. Why can't you record it? Because I would be also interested in listening to it. And that's why I started my podcast.
We all need friends like that.
Yeah, that's where I started my podcast.
What is YFN about? What's your mission and what value do you provide to people?
Yeah, so with YFN, we want to empower the next generation of founders in between 16 and 25 years. And everything started with a friend group of 20 people in an old supermarket hall or an old supermarket after the Startup Teams finals. So the Startup Teams finals, Startup Teams has a competition once a year. It's currently going, so if you, I don't know when the episode comes out, but you can currently still vote, or maybe if you didn't make it, you can enter your idea for the next year, because it's a great opportunity. I think you can win 7 times 10K, so in different categories, and it's a great way to start your own projects if you are below 20, so if you are in your teens.
Yeah.
And we did, and I was in Startup Teams with a mentorship for the podcast, and got to know Leonard. You also know Leonard Darzo, who was also a fellow student here at Code, on LinkedIn, because he was promoting his own venture. He was there doing some kind of video, audio, so an audio plugin for video tools. So an audio plugin for Premiere, for example.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try it because I was into video editing, but the login was not working because it was a mock. So I told him, hey, Leonard, your login is not working. And he told me, yeah, no, because I'm currently I'm currently doing user research and currently looking for feedback. Do you want to jump in on a call? And that's when it clicked, and we thought, okay, why are we doing all our projects on our own? Mm-hmm. We could start a Discord server and call it the Young Founders Network, and invite other people that we know, other young people that we know that are currently starting their own ventures and are currently doing their own projects, and just meet there and talk, share resources that are interesting. And I also hosted some live podcasts there, which was a lot of fun. And then the Startup Teams competition was held, and it was remote. And a friend of mine that rented the supermarket hall that was about to be torn down said, okay, everything was remote. Let's just meet at my place. Let's just meet at the supermarket and do a hackathon for 3 days. So everybody went there with sleeping bags and mattresses and slept on the supermarket floor.
For 3 days.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
it was insanely cheap. It was incredibly dirty, everything, but it was a lot of fun because finally we found people that were thinking like us. For example, I don't have any friends, or I didn't have any friends at my school that were interested into entrepreneurship. Maybe someone wanted to be like self-employed or do like own ventures, but more kind of like, I get rich quick kind of way and not like building interesting apps. So there are numbers on it. So the Bertelsmann Foundation, one of the foundations that supports
I know them. I heard of them.
Held a monitor study where 40% of the under 25-year-old can think about themselves being self-employed or building own ventures, but I think half a percent at the end does it and founds own companies. So that's where YFN comes, where we want to tackle it. And we started with the hackathons, the events, the 3-day events from Friday to Sunday, sleeping there, having inviting speakers and everything. At the beginning, it was like speakers that we know. And then, for example, at the third event, it was Tom from Code, one of the founders, who traveled from Berlin to the south of Frankfurt to go to the supermarket. And we did it every half a year. And after 3 events, one of my co-initiators, we were then a team of, I think, 5 or 6, met one of the directors of the Bertelsmann Foundation at the Sigma Squared Summit in Lisbon. And they talked about how they can support young entrepreneurship more. And then the Bertelsmann Foundation thought of doing own events and doing own programs. And we were currently building the community. And the community we didn't have money at all. So everything was self-paid. You paid 20 euros when you got there to the supermarket, and we bought pizza, and that was it. So it was just growing because of word of mouth, because people just wanted to share it and bring friends that were also building ventures.
I think it's like, before you continue, like it's more of like just young people like really passionate about building stuff. And like you said, it started from you reaching out to Leonard because you found a bug, because you are this problem solving focused like kind of person, right? So it started from that. And then what started as that just grew into you finding similar people who had the same mindsets of productivity and all that, and then reaching out to these people. What's like the main thing YFN is focused on? Because I've heard about the hackathons and like the mentorship and you reaching out to bigger founders and all. So right now, what would you say the main focus is?
Yeah, so that's a bit of the issue. So the main focus is to empower the next generation of founders. And at first we began only with networking. So we did events to just provide a first professional network for people that went out of school or out of university that did not have any kind of startup network or any kind of entrepreneurship network, because they just came from rural areas, for example, or their parents did not do anything entrepreneurial. So we wanted to be the lowest entry barrier for the whole startup community.
Yeah.
What
so
we
like
then
Y Combinator, but for like high schoolers.
Yeah, we are much more before Y Combinator. So we think ourselves that people can join while they're doing school. So when they have when they're starting their own ideas or are very, very interested in starting their own ventures, but before all the big accelerators like Y Combinator, Evo, and everything. Yeah. So we started with the community approach, and then thought, okay, what kind of resources would have been useful for me at 16 when I was doing the e-commerce store, for example? And we thought, okay, maybe a roadmap where I get a step-by-step breakdown on how I can build my own product. So start with a problem, then build your idea, an MVP, then do all kind of user testing, and what kind of financing you can do. This was like a Notion page where we started as a roadmap, and then thought, okay, what kind of other things do we need? For example, now we are going into schools, and we are currently coaching teachers to have to do project weeks where they can show their students how to build own startups, and are going into universities and connecting with initiatives there, and have then thought, okay, what would the next step be? The next step would be to go from idea to MVP or first prototype, and have started an incubator for it, where we just have 8 weeks, like BuildSpace, for example, as an example from San Francisco. That's another thing that we tend to do. We take ideas that are already
working somewhere.
Yeah, that are working, and try to adapt it to a German market or to the needs of our community. And this works perfectly, because the thing that BuildSpace was doing, because they said they stopped it, but getting people accountable, holding them accountable, and providing a lot of value with workshops and everything helped a lot. And then the 10K at the end as a competition, then of course helps a lot. Then other projects was a monitor that we did with 5 of Germany's biggest foundations to also go into politics and tell politicians, okay, these are the 7 most important points that you can change to get more students to found own companies, because these are the things people are most conscious about or most anxious about when starting their own companies, and you need to change the policies about them. And that's how we go from project to project. And I think currently we have about 30 projects going on. I've totally lost all ideas, but everything is at the idea or at the vision to empower the next generation. And somehow the 20 people around the fire in the supermarket hall stumbled into a community of about 1,100 entrepreneurial driven people under 26, and which is now one of the German biggest student entrepreneurship initiatives.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very inspiring story and very in-depth. But for me personally, like some of my main learnings, again, brings me back to your whole mindset about this goal setting thing. Like what you did with your 1 and 5 year plan. I think what helped with YFN was because you had seen what works in certain situations. So now you can like teach other young people who are coming up. But then things you mentioned, like, for example, user testing, validation, like building a prototype before you scale to an MVP, and financing. All those are like very entrepreneurship heavy terms that if you are not in an entrepreneurship community, you probably not hear about that. Like someone who is very focused on being a developer or something, he's just thinking about shipping. Like he doesn't care what user testing is. And that's something I've noticed. Like people are always focused on their area of expertise. Like, for example, developers don't want to hear anything about like design stuff, and designers don't want to hear about the code. So how do you reconcile the two, basically? And how did you learn about those things? Because right now you're able to provide that value to people because you learned it. So how did you learn about like all those stuff about entrepreneurship journey? And what do you think young people coming up today can do to learn the same? Let's say if there's no YFN like in their area or something.
Yeah, so I don't have one point where I think it like turned the left and then I knew anything about entrepreneurship. It was a lot of different kind of things I read, watched, kind of learning nuggets I took in, that got me to the point where I have a broader knowledge about entrepreneurship and how you start your own company. It's the most important thing I would say, or what helped me a lot, was starting the projects, like I told you, and then having a look, okay, what do I need to go from point A to point B? So what do I need to accomplish? What kind of programming language do you need to build the thing that I want to build? How do I need to market it so that users, for example, then go on my page? Would really help me were the whole Y Combinator videos. I think this is one of the best resources. If you're in Germany, one of the resources I can recommend, YFN. We have started an own crash course on, because we wanted to kill Germany's bureaucracy, but it's just impossible. So we did a video course to give students and founders a map on how to navigate through the German jungle of bureaucracy. And also now having a second one doing taxes. There are so many free resources in in the internet. So many valuable resources on doing entrepreneurship, programming. You don't need to pay a cent. Even to Udemy, you don't need to pay any courses. That's one issue I did. You don't need to buy any books. Just go on YouTube, type in the thing that you want to learn, and there will be a lot of courses around it, and you don't need more to start. What I tend to do a lot is to deep down and go into a rabbit hole and just getting a lot of knowledge, and then not taking the step to really then do the things that I learn, that I try to learn, and that I watched, and the knowledge that I gathered. So that's the most important thing. Watch videos about what you want to learn, and then go and build and execute the thing that you want to do.
Okay. I think another problem too is with this whole entrepreneurship thing, right? I don't know how it is for like YFN and the kind of young people you mentor, but I think most people have this problem of like being generalists. So like learn a bit of Python here, like learn a bit of JavaScript, and then I don't know what term we use in entrepreneurship, but like do one little thing here, do something else here. Do you think that's a problem? If yes, why is there a problem? And if it's not, what's the best way to like find one specific thing to focus on and build it? So let's say like right now you're showing people how to go through German bureaucracy or how to launch their startup basically. But what's important? Like what are the foundational things that no one needs to get wrong?
Yeah, so depends on what you want to do. If you want to really narrow down and be a A-level top-tier developer in a specific programming language because you find it very interesting, I don't know, if, for example, Rust or Python, machine learning, for example, then I would say pursue your dream and really niche down, because then you can find extraordinary jobs and a lot of well-paying jobs. For most founders, what I gathered, and most founders I know and friends I have that founded own companies, most often are generalists, because you need to be. So you need to.
Why do you need to be?
You because at the beginning you can't pay anyone. You either do it yourself or it is just not done. So maybe you find 2 or 3 co-founders or 1 or 2 co-founders to build your venture, and then you have different skill sets to build the projects together. But either way, most of the time, if you're the founder, you really need to do a lot of things. So you need to do the taxes, you need to do the user interviews, you need to build the product, you need to do the website. There are so many different things that you need to do, that being a generalist is a good way, I think, at the beginning. And then afterwards, you can take in very niche people in the team. What I want to point out, maybe what I didn't tell enough, that YFN is by far not my accomplishment. So we started this as a team.
Wait. So, like everything you said, that's not the greatest thing you've done so far.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean that I'm not responsible for the success of YFN. So there's so many other people that are responsible for it. So we started with a team of 7, and then afterwards it was only me. This was the area at the beginning where we were in the supermarket, and one by one, a person was organizing the whole event, the whole catering and everything, and burned out because it was just too much work for only one person. And we did it 3 times, and then half the team did not want to do it anymore. And then there was a moment where we were sitting in a Starbucks in Cologne, had just won an award of 20,000 euros from a German foundation, which wanted to award us some money for doing entrepreneurial kind of NGO work.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, okay, should we continue or not? And it was ranging from, okay, we are the best, we are the fastest growing initiative in Germany, to it doesn't make any sense at all. Everybody's just too busy doing their own startups. And that's where I got thrown into cold water, because at the beginning I was not the one organizing everything. But then I got other responsibility and had to learn to swim, because at the end was, okay, you're doing your startup, you can't have the whole responsibility. You are doing the startup, and I was the only one having only the podcast as a project.
Yeah.
So I stopped the project, the podcast, and got into YFN. And then the most interesting things that I learned from my personal career so far were the whole steps from growing YFN from one person to now a team of over 80. So we have over 15 chapters, and I think one chapter is coming every 4 weeks or every 2 months.
That's a big accomplishment.
And it's a lot of fun, and people are just starting own ventures because they have the freedom to do it. So I ran it now for 2 years as like a president, and a few weeks ago I gave it to the next generation because what I told you before, I need to focus. I want to be a better developer, and I can't accomplish it while doing YFN 30 hours a week and having a founder's associate job 20 hours a week on the side. So I needed to cut things down to focus on other projects that I want to build and want to go. And this also gave me a lot of time to reflect on what were my most important learnings for YFN, because
do you mind sharing them?
Yeah, we are by far not the first entrepreneurship initiative, and there are entrepreneurship initiatives like Start Global, for example, from Switzerland, from St. Gallen,
and Techstars, and
many others that are already there since, I don't know, 25 years or something. So we are by far not the newest kids on the block. I think the thing we did another way around was giving ownership to the community very early on. So we built the frame, the ground rules, the green field, the sandbox, if you want to tell it, with the NGO as a legal entity, and with funding, because we have we got the foundations very early on, and got other supporters who found projects. So every time, we opened the space for people coming to us and saying, hey, I want to start my own chapter. How can I do it? And then giving you the playbook here. You can start it. If you have 10 people, then you have your own chapter. And then you can, if you want to make bigger events, you need to get own sponsors, for example, or the guy that did the crash course. Okay, you want to do the crash course? Perfect. Let's see how we can get you some sponsors to accomplish it. And that's how step by step we built all of these kind of different projects that then more or less align to a story. But it was just about giving out a lot of ownership. The thing that then is often looked over is the whole thing of mission and vision. You really need an aligned vision for the whole initiative. And that's where I see a lot of student initiatives, a lot of entrepreneurship initiatives break down because either the leaderboard or the team in general is not aligned.
There's no plan. Basically.
Yeah, it's no plan, and you really need to sit down and have a look, okay, where do we want to be in 5 years? It needs to be an incredibly big goal. If you reach it faster, perfect. But then you can have a look, okay, are we steering in the right direction? And the most important thing that I learned in this kind of context was that if I talk to anyone in the team, I need to make sure that the vision aligns with the own goals of the person. So, for example, if someone wants to join the event team or the marketing team, or the marketing team is a great example. So when anyone joins the marketing team and the goal is to, be the best programmer in the world, this will not be a fit. But if the person, for example, wants to start their own career as a content creator, it will be a great fit because that benefits each other. Yeah. And if you want to found your own company and then you take a lead role in YFN, you just learn a lot of people. So maybe then the partnership department, where you talk to a lot of founders, talk to a lot of companies, would be the better fit. And then to have a look, okay, where do the goals and values from every person fit into the whole bigger vision? And the most important thing overall, I think, is just the whole kind of feedback and appreciation. Appreciation is for free, and it's the only currency that we have. It's insane. So with appreciation, you can really get a team from 80 people, high perform, and do projects that are insane that I could never imagine. And if the appreciation is missing, you can have also a team that does not do anything at all. So aligning the personal vision with the overall vision and the whole initiative is very important, and to then give ownership, a lot of ownership to others, and to take yourself back a bit. And by far the most important thing is appreciation and candid feedback. And I think I tend to over appreciate a bit. I got told that it's,
I don't think it's a problem,
but it's for free.
Yeah.
So it motivates people so much that I tend, if you are in this kind of NGO setting, it's difficult to over appreciate, because everything that people do is for free. Everything we do is in our free time. We don't earn a cent with doing it. So people can be appreciated for the things that they do. Yeah. And of course, sharing accomplishments with everybody in front, you know. But if anything goes bad or you have personal feedback, then of course going into one-to-one and also having local is currently how can I help the person, and going through the whole leadership process. I read a few books, and beside the whole conversations that I had with a few founders that really got me into thinking about different perspectives, was, for example, the book from Simon Sinek, Why Leaders Eat Last, or the whole TED Talk series is very interesting on, changing the view on you need to get the people's why are they motivated, what is their passion, what drives them, because we are community driven, and most of our projects don't start with a bag of money piled up and then hoping that something turns out, but most often it's people just work on projects, and if at some point we need money for ads or something, then we gather some funding. And the other book that I read which was very interesting, was The Hard Thing About Hard Things from, I think, Ben Horowitz, which was so incredibly interesting because he just talks about, there are just so many challenges that you will face and that you will face kind of your entrepreneurial journey that you cannot foresee and cannot expect in some kind of way that you need to tackle. And then most often you have to and then really go into it. And there will be a lot of setbacks, which I also had. So many of the things many of the projects that I did were not a success at all. I make a few bucks maybe, but most of the projects did not bring in money at all. I often run into projects using a lot of time and then throwing them away because they were just not working. I got burnt out a few times because I had just too much work going to projects, and what helped me out of it was just having a lot of conversations with people from my community, with people from YFN, other friends, and especially mentors, to then give me other perspectives, and also then delegating work. Yeah. I think that's one of the most interesting and most important thing that I learned. It's all right to delegate work if you do it right. Yeah, exactly. That if you do it the right way. So I can't go to every task that I don't want to do and say, okay, another person just do it for me. Yeah. I need to have a look, okay, what kind of skills does the other person have, and to not always just delegate the work that I don't want to do, because the other person also needs to be excited about the work that the person does. So oftentimes it's exciting work that I want to do that I give to others to share the workload and also keeping others motivated.
As someone who has been a leader, do you think micromanaging is a problem, since you are talking about delegating work? Because I think more often than not, like a lot of founders, and also since you've been in this leadership role as YFN in the past, like because you are so obsessed about building something that works, like you have this clear picture of how things should work in your mind. So it's difficult for people to like, let's go and say, oh, this person should handle this. So how do you build trust? Because obviously if you are going to delegate work, like the work has to mean the same standard, like what you think. And do you think micromanaging is a problem generally, or it's good in some cases?
I think micromanagement can be beneficial in a very, very short time where you really need to get something going. I don't know if there's an event in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. maybe it's a good thing to really ask everybody, okay, what's the current standpoint? Maybe to also get some tasks back if you have some spare time, for example, and do things on your own. But more often than not, micromanaging kills a lot of motivation, and you also tell the other person that you don't value their knowledge and you don't trust them enough to fulfill the task.
Yeah.
And if you micromanage too often, then maybe you should ask yourself if the person is the right fit or if you really need to change something. I often tend to micromanage because I think for myself that my idea of a project is the right way to go. But it got proven a lot of times that I'm very wrong. Most people that micromanage too much often get or should get proved wrong, and that also get the feedback. I think setting an open feedback culture is incredibly important for all kinds of startups and all kinds of initiatives, because if you are some kind of unreachable god, it's impossible to get valuable feedback before the ship sinks. Yeah. So having this kind of trust from your team and giving the trust back to your team is very, very important there. Okay. And what we did to what I implemented
to build trust,
to build trust. Trust came kind of a natural way when I knew people because they were in the events and they already engaged themselves in YFN, and I knew, okay, they have the potential to go further. But the thing that helped me micromanage or to not micromanage this much was having a clear structure in departments or roles, depends on how you want to clarify it, and then to not do anything at all if someone is leading this department, because it's just not my responsibility. And if I have any concerns, I either talk to the leader in a one-to-one and ask how it's going and if I can help, and if if he or she is currently facing any obstacles, or just not doing anything about it because I have enough trust in the person. Yeah. And most important is opening the space for all the leaders to come together in kind of a meeting or call, and also having the retro calls about, okay, what's currently not going well. I think opening the feedback there and having really set time for discussing every blocker, it's very important. And once the structure was in place where we had the 5 departments, so event, marketing, IT, community, and partnerships with a lead, and then we have a co-lead. So we have a lead who's also in the board in the YFN, and then we have kind of a supporter that the leader picks for himself, the department lead, after a few months after he or she is elected, and then that helps to lead the whole department, and as like a sparring partner. Okay. And so, who then afterwards goes as the leader. And this kind of structure, I think, can also help a lot of other initiatives because it's very adaptable and very applicable to all kinds of different NGOs. And having this kind of structure helps a lot.
Okay. Yeah. What I was actually going to ask as a follow-up is, so I get the sense that like you guys have this whole agile mindset, and like the whole thing about waterfall is like, about micromanaging is more like this whole waterfall thing. So how do you adopt that mindset? Like I think it's working for you because you have past experiences like failing and succeeding in different projects, right? But as someone who is now starting a startup, since you mentor like young people and all, you have this whole departmental structure. Maybe those are not the fixed like formats that everyone needs. But then what do you think are things that should go into consideration? Like, let's say, okay, if I've just built a project or like I'm starting something, what are some things I should never miss in terms of like structuring departments and the whole teamwork thing, basically? Because you guys are doing agile and I think it's working well. So what does every founder need to know about that, basically?
At the beginning, if you take in the first few people, you really need to make sure that the person burns for your vision and is very, very driven, and also sees an own impact that he or she can do in the startup, because you can't pay any high salaries at the beginning if you can pay salaries at all. And especially at the beginning, some kind of founding engineers and everything, you need people that are very, very driven for the whole vision and mission that the startup does. This is, I think, the most important thing that often people don't do the right way. So people just tend to, I don't know, get good engineers. But in this case, maybe a mediocre engineer with a lot of drive and passion for the project is better than a top tier engineer who has no drive at all, because the mediocre engineer can maybe deep down and rabbit hole into what kind of tech you need, and can also get sparring from experienced developers, while the other top tier developer oftentimes will not be part of the vision and then break apart from the team when you get some kind of traction, or when first issues arise, and it will definitely happen. So if you begin, the motivations, like here, you are very eager, it goes up very, very far, and with the first challenge you face, it goes down so incredibly fast. And then afterwards it gets up and up and up, depending on if you have like smaller successes. But you have this kind of curve in your whole team, and you need people to survive the first up and the first big down to really get your startup going. I think this is most of the most important thing when building a team. Department structure, like we did in YFN, works for most NGOs, I would say. Of course, depending how big you are, you need to implement other teams, and maybe less departments, more departments. Less departments oftentimes is better than more departments, because you then have less people to talk with and to manage. Not really to manage, but to talk with about new ideas. I also don't see, or have not seen myself as kind of president of YFN. I was just part of the team, and my role was to motivate the other leaders and to keep the team going, and not to be like the manager for everybody. This was not what I needed to do, but this can oftentimes be the case in your own startup. So it depends. If you have your own startup and you take in the first people, then you probably will micromanage a lot. And you will need to manage, and you will need to give a lot of sparring. Maybe then you can give ownership to others and give ownership to the person that you have taken to the team step by step. But this will be different in kind of an NGO, because there you don't have any, you have appreciations, your own only currency, and ownership that you can give to get other people motivated. And this is kind of a separate thing. If you have your own startup, which at the end the goal is to make money, often, or should always be, or always should be for your own company, is of course completely different to an NGO where impact is kind of the goal you have.
But the people usually say, like, if you follow impact and you're impacts driven, the money you follow, basically. Do you always agree with that? And like, kind of wrapping up also, in retrospect, like, you guys have done events, you've done these hackathons, you've done the workshops and everything. What is your best memory, like maybe best and worst? And then also about what I just asked, like, is impact more important, not only in your context, because you guys are more impact focused, obviously, but then in the startup and like entrepreneurship context generally, is impact more important? Or like, I mean, everyone is in it to make money. So how do you distinguish between the two?
So I think impact in kind of way, okay, how can we support the most people for free and have the most impact to support founders, more than impact on kind of an environmental kind of way. I think impact in my case would be to support your own community, and this should be the case for most NGOs. And also building your product together in your community is very valuable. So we, for example, in YFN, we build products for our own community, and therefore as we are experts, we can build also products that others have not built. So for example, we are currently building a mentorship platform, and where mentors can sign up and who want to support young founders, and people from our community can then be matched with founders based on the current problems that they have. And we probably would have not built it this way if we wouldn't be in the community. So building in your community is a great way to start. But in your startup, I wouldn't say that you really need to be impact driven there. You need to make a thing that works for your customers. And this should be the number one priority. And most startups already fail there. So impact is a topic that comes way later.
Yeah. Why do you think they always fail? Like, what do you think is the problem? Because I think most people's hypothesis, like I was listening to Evan Spiegel from the Snapchat like co-founder, and he was talking about the fact that like the main reason for even building Snapchat in the beginning was they had this product design kind of similar to what we do at Code. And they were supposed to build some form of MVP basically, and that's how Snapchat started. But then if you look at things, their initial hypothesis was even different. So it changed along the way. But then what helped them was always like asking what works for the customer. So like with the disappearing messages thing, it was even feedback from like some customers basically. So in that context, always finding like what the customers want, yes. But then how do you define impacts? Like how most startups fail because they don't find it out in the beginning. How do you actually come about that? Maybe you don't know because there's no one size fits all answer. But then what do you think is the best way to find what to prioritize in the beginning?
Yeah, so if you find a problem that you want to build a solution on, that you first need, or I would try to find in my community or anywhere if people have the same issue as me. So just Google it, use Perplexity. If there are blog posts about it, then you're probably on a good way and on a good start. If they're not, maybe have a look if you are one of the few people that have this issue, or if you are very, very niched down. And then go to the people. If the people have written blog posts about the problem, talk to them, talk to family, friends, go on Twitter, social media, TikTok, anybody who you can talk to about the problem and what they are currently facing without pitching your own idea is, I think, a great way to start. And then afterwards, step by step, in your head, you will build the product on your own. And then after you have the first version, directly going out and talk to potential customers and the people that have the problem if your MVP solves it. And if your MVP really solves the problem, even the shittiest UI and even the worst user experience will already work and will already be enough. And then you can continue further, but polishing most often kills the idea directly from the start.
Yeah, and I think most people focus on like, it's not even with startups in general, like with everything, like always waiting for the perfect opportunity. Like even with this podcast, you remember you said like just start, like because the reason was
just do it, you know?
Yeah, you don't need to wait for the perfect like setup, perfect camera. Like just start with what you have and then build as you go along. Yeah, I think it's been like an interesting conversation. Just to wrap up, like looking back, maybe back to our whole story about Minecraft and everything. What do you think your journey has been like to this point, and what do you think like the plans are going forward? Because just one question, if I should put it that way, from your dad about thinking about not being a consumer and being someone who builds value kind of translated into everything that has come along the way. But is there any other thing that like maybe I missed in asking, or what do you think your plans are going forward apart from YFN?
Yeah, so apart from YFN is a good point because I stepped down a few weeks ago and passed the YFN leadership position to a new set of leaders. So we, I think, switched almost the entire board. And this was very, very interesting to step back from, I don't know, my baby. I kind of put a lot of hard work into it and a lot of nerves, and to then have the trust in the team that they will do it, but also taking myself completely out of it. So directly from the start, I told them while doing the whole transition process, I talked to all the leaders that lead now and that did lead on everything that is currently happening, and prepping the whole stepping back process a lot. And afterwards, telling them, okay, I will not do anything operatively, so I will not manage anything, I will not write anything, I will not edit anything, because
must be a hard decision.
yeah, it's incredibly hard because even now people just ask me, hey, can you write this or can you do that? No, ask the people in your department. I'm just there as like a sparrings partner if you have any kind of blocker, if you need any kind of information from YFN, because I did it a few years now. I often have the stories and the connections to the people, and I can write intros, for example. But I think that's the most important thing if you have an initiative to step back, and this will be now my current focus to switch from YFN entrepreneurial more into doing my own entrepreneurial projects and being a better developer with a high product focus. So what I'm currently doing since I stepped back from YFN is just building a lot of ideas every week. I want to learn new programming languages. For example, I started doing Swift now, and I thought, okay, what annoys me the most?
Yeah.
The meeting note takers are horrible. So I started programming my own meeting note taker, while also trying to not use Cursor and all the AI tools as much, because then I know that I will use them a lot, and I will not be
about the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My progress just stops. If I know something, for example, I did a lot of web development and know how to build functions, everything, then AI tools work for me perfectly because it just makes my flow much faster. But if I want to learn a new programming language, then it just doesn't work to use the kind of AI tools. And that's what I want to do, just build a lot of different apps. What I found out is just, for example, when going for a walk, to not listen to any podcasts. So just think about, okay, what are the current things I'm having problems with, or what annoys me, and then just write ideas down. And I think I come up with, I don't know, an idea a day or something, or an idea every 2 days. Most of them are trash. Some I try to get to life. But I think that's the way that most people should do it. Just if you have an idea, try to build it, and then along the way you will learn a lot of things. And when you think you are stuck, either put the idea on GitHub and on rest, and continue another project or do another thing. And then we'll do next is go to Stanford and for the Stanford summer session here with code, and go deeper into machine learning. So it's one of the modules I will do, and the other one is tech entrepreneurship. The machine learning course is a graduate course, so I'm very curious how this will go. I also did the machine learning course here before. I'm very excited for the opportunity, and have also already started going on to Luma to check out all the events that are happening. And to try to do the best out of the time, and afterwards wrapping up my studies and maybe, I don't know, staying here in Berlin, moving to Munich, and getting the startup air from another city. But yeah, it's so far what I want to do.
That's great.
So just continue building.
Yeah. I mean, it's great because it's good that you mentioned like Munich and then going back to startups, because I was going to ask you something that maybe is not directly relevant. Like, since you say you want to focus on programming, right now, there are two main problems, right? AI is one of them. Like, if you go everywhere, AI is a buzzword. And then, especially, like, I'm asking about this because of the whole developer community we find ourselves in. And also because you mentioned, like, you are trying to build projects without, like, trying to use Cursor or any other of these stuff. Because people have different opinions. Something like, yes, AI helps you in terms of developments, but if you don't understand the basics, you just start, I don't know, vibe coding. And then there are also sort of like problems in between. Then the other thing is like lead code and these interview style questions. Maybe for like you and I and like people who find ourselves in this ecosystem, like code founder focused, we are thinking about building a startup. But like your typical person who wants to be a software developer maybe wants to get like a job at a FANG company. And then you have like all these lead code style questions that have nothing to do with any projects you've done. Like you just have to learn about algorithms and memorize questions. Do you think that's a problem? And what do you think the best approach to be relevant as a developer is, since that's the path you're following right now?
Yeah. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to get a job in a FANG company, then you would probably need to really log into lead code questions and learn all the harder ones.
Time
of
complexity.
Course, yeah, of course, if you are a software engineer, you need to know what time complexity is and you need to know the basic algorithms. So I think this is the groundwork that you should do. And also the easier lead code questions could be a good way to start. But if you really want to build products, then to begin most often smaller startups where you can just enter with showing a portfolio of own projects that you have built will be enough and oftentimes much more rewarded than doing the frequent lead code questions because you can build actual software. So having some projects on GitHub open for public and writing about software engineering, for example, on LinkedIn or Twitter helps connecting with founders, doing internships, doing founders associate jobs, I don't know, worker student things. And at the end, if you don't have any problems, which I'm very sure you will run into problems. Everyone has problems. Yeah. But if you think that you can't manage to find a problem that you want to work on, just find your favorite software and copy it just for the sake of learning it. For example, I tried to copy Notion and the whole database architecture. I stopped it after, I don't know, 4 weeks because I wanted to pursue another project, but it helped me to learn a lot on how to do the Notion style editor and how the whole system works with the different rows and how it then
access control.
Yeah, access control and how they work then. No, the rows, I mean, in Notion editor, you know, when moving it up and down and how you need to change the parents and everything. So just copy your favorite software, and oftentimes there are also tutorials on how to copy the software. So for example, about Reddit, I did a tutorial and video course, I don't know, a few hours on how to copy Reddit or Twitter or anything. Yeah. There are more complex apps, I don't know, like Uber or something, or more simple app like Twitter or WhatsApp, where you can then start learning. And if you're stuck, just ask ChatGPT or Perplexity to give you a few project ideas for the beginning, and then just start learning.
Okay. I mean, I think that's really sound advice. So it's been a great conversation, and I'm really looking forward to everything that you do, like AI, ML at Stanford and YFN, like the next steps. So thank you very much. And one last thing, if I want to join YFN, let's say I'm in Germany, like what should the viewers do? For example, maybe they've never heard about it, but now they want to like join YFN.
Yeah, so the issue with YFN, or one of the benefits, depending on how you see it, it's all in Germany. So we don't have any kind of niche or any kind of branch where we're in. You can join if you have an own startup or have an own business or any kind of thing if you are between the age of 16 and 25. It's the only limit we have, but it's in German. And the reason is quite simple. It's not because we want to exclude anyone, but we found out that our core niche is here in Germany, and the topics are just too complicated to talk about in a not native language. Yeah. So as you might guess, English is also not my native language. I'm German and Spanish. So when talking about the whole entrepreneurship or business, especially when you're talking then about the whole finance and law topics, they are already so complicated in my native language in German that I would probably have a very hard time to even understand them in English, and even harder time talking about them and discussing them in another language than my native language. So that's the reason. It's sadly only in English. Maybe it will change when we move out of Germany into other European countries. But you can find it on youngfounders.network, on LinkedIn, Instagram, on our website, and become a member for free.
Great. Okay, so you heard him. If you want to join Young Founders Network, it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I think that's about it for today. Thank you very much for the conversation.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me.